Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2 Kings, the 3rd chapter. And Lord willing, to be an edifying lesson. And so, in this chapter, we go back to the focus on the succession of kings of the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. As we saw in the previous chapter, Elijah got taken up, and Elisha, sort of like stepped up in his room or in his stead. Okay, so now, as we'll see, the sort of go-to prophet of the Lord here, even though there were other prophets of the Lord at this time, but we'll start to see mention of Elisha a lot more. So this is 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 1. Now Jehoram the son of Ahab began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat king of Judah, and reigned 12 years. And he wrought evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh, not like his father and like his mother. For he put away the image, which is the idol of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he clave unto the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom. So Jehoram was still into idolatry. Though he put away the idols of Baal, he continued in the ways of Jeroboam, right, which was mainly idolatry. So he didn't really turn back to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, fully. And the king, and Mesha, king of Moab, was a sheep master, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with the wool. Now remember, going back to the reign of King David, we had subjected these neighboring nations under us. So going on from there, as we can see, even up until this point, the Moabites were subject unto us, which is why their king was supplying us with the sheep, right? Another word for sheep master, when you go into it, is a sheep dealer. So you can imagine the Moabites probably had some good cattle, good sheep. Nonetheless, they would supply us with that, with the wool, and so on and so forth. Now, Mesha is actually interesting because when we look up here, there's a stele that we can look up here. Famous one is an archaeological find. And, when you read about the Mesha stele, just going to read this top part here and then go to the main point. So it says, the Mesha stele, also known as the Moabite stone, is a stele dated around 840 BCE, containing a significant Canaanite inscription in the name of King Mesha of Moab, right? The same Mesha we just read about here. And going to show you, right, these Moabites, that's not a, it's in the scriptures, right? That's how they were referred to. That was their original name. And as you can see, even in some form of secular history, there's records here of it. Anyway, a kingdom located in modern Jordan. Mesha tells how Chemosh, the god of Moab, had been angry with his people and had allowed them to be subjugated to the kingdom of Israel. But at length, Chemosh returned and assisted Mesha to throw off the yoke of Israel and restore the lands of Moab. Mesha also describes his many building projects. It is written in a variant of the Phoenician alphabet, closely related to the Paleo-Hebrew script. So there are a couple of things going on in here, right? The one being, this is for those who like to say ignorantly, the Bible was written by man, it's all fake, yada yada. There's this Mesha stele here is an external source that lines up with what's written in the scriptures, right? The individual is there. There is a point in which we will read about when the Moabites rebelled, and eventually basically broke free-ish from that heavy yoke that we had on them. But that's all in here. Now the main specific part I'm looking for here we go, is they have it here as proposed references to David and the house of David, which we believe it is. It's not proposed, it actually is. But I want to see if I can find the main part that I'm looking for here. I don't want to have to read all this. All right, let me skim through this and see if we can get to that part. So this says the discovery of the Tel Dan stele led to a re-evaluation of the Mesha stele by some scholars. In 1994, Andre Lemire reconstructed WD as House of David, meaning Judah, in line 31. This section is badly damaged, but appears to tell of Mesha's reconquest of the southern lands of Moab, just as the earlier part dealt with victories in the north. Line 31 says that he captured Horonen from someone who was occupying it. Cool. It says this is not universally accepted. Nadav Naaman, for instance, suggested it as DT, WD, House of Daudo, a local ruling family. Bruh. Were Lemire correct, the stele would provide the earliest evidence of the existence of the Judean kingdom and its Davidic dynasty. So what you'll notice here is it's like this back and forth. I propose that it actually means this. I propose that it means this, but that's why we don't rely on these things. Our proof is the scriptures. That's really all we need. I am looking for a specific part in here though that goes into the name of the Lord, because it was also inscribed on that stone. And I don't know if they updated this page here or if I'm just missing it. Let me see if I can YH. God. All right, so let's see if it pops up here. Here we go. So this is a good one. What section is this under? Oh, okay, it's from the top here. Yeah, so it says here, the Mesha stele is the first major epigraphic Canaanite inscription found in the southern Levant. The longest Iron Age inscription ever found in the region, constitutes the major evidence for the Moabite language, and is a cornerstone of Semitic epigraphy. Cool, nice. Let's get to the point. The stele, whose story parallels with some differences an episode in the Bible's Book of Kings, chapter 3, which we're going through, provides invaluable information on the Moabite language and the political relationship between Moab and Israel at one moment in the 9th century BCE. That's within the 800s. It is the most extensive inscription ever recovered that refers to the kingdom of Israel, the house of Omri. It bears the earliest certain extra-biblical reference to the Israelites, or the Israelites' God, which they have him here as Yahweh, but that's not his name, right? In the Hebrew, it's Yahweh. So you hear that, right? Extra-biblical, meaning outside of the Bible reference to the Israelite God. It is also known as one of 4 known contemporaneous inscriptions containing the name of Israel, and the others being the Merneptah stele, the Tel Dan stele, and one of the Kirk monoliths. And maybe I might do a lesson going into these, but we'll see if how the Spirit moves on that. Its authenticity has been disputed over the years, and some biblical minimalists suggest the text was not historical, but a biblical allegory. The stele itself is regarded as genuine and historical by the vast majority of biblical archaeologists today. Yeah, you're always going to have non-believers who try to, disprove this and that, and who cares, right? Who really cares what they have to say? But let me see if I can find another verse in here. Let's see. Content overview. Let's go again. Yeah, there is a portion in here. I was really hoping I could find it, but it has the name of the Lord actually in there, Yahweh. And so, you can see that it's not like we're going around making it up. You got people talking about, well, we don't have the name of the Lord. So how the hell did the Moabites have the name of the Lord written on that stone? And when I say that, it means like the name of the God of the house of David. They had it on there. And as a matter of fact, let me do an extensive search here. Let's see. Moabite stone name of Hebrew God. Yeah, I want to see. What they have here is YHWH. Let's see if we can find it here. Okay, perfect. Somebody actually has it here. So there's a portion in here in the Moabite stone where they have what is called the tetragrammaton, right? The 4 letters, YHWH, right? Which this, if you're looking here, right? What we read before was this was written in the similar to the ancient Paleo Hebrew, right? This is the Hebrew name for Yahweh. Okay, Yah, Ha, Wa, Ha. This Wa and the Ha are connected. So the name here in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh. All right, it's not YHWH. It's Yahweh. That's the actual name. Okay, it says the divine name appears here in ancient characters in the form of 4 letters or tetragrammaton. Towards the right end of the 18th line, the personal name of God, transliterated, is met for the first time in Genesis 2 and 4. This verb in the imperfect tense of the causative form means he becomes, right? But in the normal tense, it's he is. Okay, so now let's actually look up the Mesha Stele again. I think they said this was on line 18. Let me go back and take a look. Yeah, on the 18th line. Yeah, though it's not too clear in here. Yeah, they have an image in here. So this, if we zoom in a bit more, is the 18th line, and there you go, Yahweh. Okay, and the dots are sort of separating each word or sentence in here. So it's there. That's the thing. It's literally right there. It's not, we didn't make that up. People, oh, what? How you know the name of the Lord? Well, it's on there, and it's like a cross reference that checks out with the name we call upon. So anyway, that was some information on Moab, on Mesha, and his inscription here. So you can look more into that if you're interested, but just wanted to bring that out since we were mentioning the account here that is also referenced on that stele. So coming back to 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 5. But it came to pass, when Ahab was dead, that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel, which we read about that, right? On the stele. And King Jehoram went out of Samaria the same time and numbered all Israel. Now in this case, he specifically mainly the ones for war, because he was going to go back and fight against the Moabites for rebelling. And he went and sent to Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, saying, the king of Moab hath rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me against Moab to battle? And he said, I will go up. I am as thou art, my people as thy people, and my horses as thy horses. So we're pretty much one. And he said, which way shall we go up? So Jehoshaphat asked. And he answered, the way through the wilderness of Edom. Now remember, we still had subjection over the Edomites. So the king of Israel went, and the king of Judah, and the king of Edom, surprisingly as it is, and they fetched a compass of 7 days' journey, and there was no water for the host and for the cattle that followed them. Now, the king of Edom here, right? I mean, obviously didn't really have much of a choice because they were still subject to us. Okay, so here you had 3 kings, right? The king of Israel, the northern kingdom, the king of Judah, the southern kingdom, and the king of Edom, considering it was through their region that the armies would be passing through. So they were employed to basically help us. And it doesn't change anything about the relationship or the nature between Israel and Edom. But when it says they fetched a compass of 7 days' journey, it means like the route that they took, right, was like a roundabout way than going straight directly to Moab. And so here, when you look up like the wilderness of Edom, Edom is right here. Moab is north of Edom, right? So rather than going straight across, they went down through Edom to come to Moab. But the problem was, as it says, there was no water for their host, right? The place they were going through wasn't one where there was like good mineral resources or things for their cattle to eat or for them. So it made it difficult. And the king of Israel said, "Alas, that the Lord Yahweh hath called these 3 kings to deliver them into the hand of Moab." Meaning, then the Lord set us up to pretty much have us be taken out by these Moabites, considering the condition or the state that they were in. But Jehoshaphat said, "Is there not a prophet of the Lord Yahweh, that we may inquire of the Lord by him?" And one of the kings of Israel's servant answered and said, "Here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, which poured water on the hands of Elijah." Now, pouring water upon the hands of Elijah, meaning that he served him, right? And that's like a similar to how you have the terminology like in the book of Samuel, when Saul went into the cave, right? It mentioned that he covered his feet. What it means was he went to relieve himself or ease himself using the bathroom, so to speak, in the cave. So it's a euphemism, which is written or mentioned in one way, but it means another. Now, in some customs, right, even in Ghana, for example, when you have, if you have like an elder, right, or someone there, and there's some foods that you would eat with your hands. And so what you would do is, the server or the younger would, when everybody sits down, depending on where you are, you can imagine, for example, maybe you're working in the field, or you're just not at home, or you don't have a sink that you open the faucet and the water comes out. So what they would do is they would fetch water, right, either in a cup or a sachet of water, and the servant or the younger would pour the water while the elder washes their hands with it, so that they could then eat, right? And so it was done that way as a form of like respect, but sort of like being in that servant kind of role, But long story short, that saying, right, poured water on the hands of Elijah, meaning that he served him. Verse 12, and Jehoshaphat said, "The word of the Lord Yahweh is with him." So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Edom went down to him. So they all came to Elisha. And Elisha said unto the king of Israel, "What have I to do with thee? Get thee to the prophets of your father, and to the prophets of thy mother." So Elisha really wasn't trying to deal with when seeing that the king of Israel there, knowing that he was into the idolatry, knowing what his father and mother did, and how he continued in that. Yeah, he wasn't really trying to deal with him. And the king of Israel said unto him, "Nay, for the Lord Yahweh hath called these 3 kings together," right, himself included, "to deliver them into the hand of Moab." And Elisha said, "As the Lord Yahweh of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, surely were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, I would not look toward thee nor see thee. Right? Meaning, like, real talk, if it wasn't that I respect or, have some regard for Jehoshaphat, him being here right now, you wouldn't even, I wouldn't even have answered you, right? Like, I would have sent you on your merry way down the street. Verse 15, but now bring me a minstrel. And it came to pass when the minstrel played that the hand of the Lord Yahweh came upon him. And the minstrel, I looked it up here. It's like, it looks like a banjo, right? Like this is a stringed instrument, so similar to like a banjo, maybe an ancient world version of what later came to be adjusted as a guitar. Anyway, when it was played, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Elisha, and he said, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, make this valley full of ditches. And we know what a ditch is, right? It's like a trench, like a hole in the ground. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain. Yet that valley shall be filled with water, that ye may drink, both ye and your cattle and your beasts. So typically before it rains, where you can get water, there is, actual rain, right? It gets windy, the storm clouds gather. Elisha says, you ain't gonna see that, but there's gonna be water, and then you can feed your cattle and so on. And this is but a light thing in the sight of the Lord Yahweh. He will deliver the Moabites into your hand. And he shall smite every fenced city and every choice city, and the choice city are the good cities, right? The capitals, the main ones, the top dogs. And shall fell every good tree, meaning like you can think of like a feller, right? Which is one that cuts down trees, but in this case, meaning you're gonna destroy them, destroy their trees, destroy their resources, destroy their cities. And stop all wells of water, and mar every good piece of land with stones. And it came to pass in the morning, when the meat offering was offered, that behold, there came water by the way of Edom, and the country was filled with water. So the next morning, right? Remember that there's a morning oblation and an evening oblation, right? So at the time of this morning offering, that's when this miracle was fulfilled here. And when all the Moabites heard that the kings were come up to fight against them, they gathered all that were able to put on armor and upward, and stood in the border. So anybody that was old enough to fight, basically. And they rose up early in the morning, and the sun shone upon the water, and the Moabites saw the water on the other side as red as blood. So you can imagine something like sunrise reflection on water. Yep. So this is an example, right? You can see the sun is rising. You can see the water because of the color and everything. The water doesn't look like your typical blue or whatnot, right? And so you can imagine something similar, right, to some degree, maybe in the sense that looked, more red. This is just to give you an idea of some kind of scenery here, right? Like here's an example. So upon seeing this, they thought that it was blood. Okay. Verse 23, and they said, this is blood. The kings are surely slain, and they have smitten one another. Now therefore Moab to the spoil. So they thought, oh, these guys, they turned on each other. Let's go and take advantage of that. And when they came to the camp of Israel, the Israelites rose up and smote the Moabites, so that they fled before them. But they went forward, smiting the Moabites even in their country. So when the Moabites came, they found out, okay, this is actually not the case, and we're kind of screwed. And so the Israelites, right, the armies, basically started taking them out, and then chased them back to their country. And they beat down the cities, and on every good piece of land cast every man his stone and filled it. And they stopped all the wells of water, right? So by, throwing stones and blocking it, right? how do you stop a well, right, from providing water? You cover it up with stones. And eventually, because what is a well? When you dig, eventually you're going to dig a hole that's deep enough, and then water is going to spring forth out of that. But if you plug it up, then that's it, you cook. But anyway, where are we at? And felled all the good trees, only in Kiha Raseth left they the stones thereof. Howbeit the slingers went about it and smote it. And the slingers are those that throw stones. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too sore for him, he took with him 700 men that drew swords to break through even unto the king of Edom, but they could not. Then he took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead, and offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall. So you can imagine that the wall where everybody could see, he basically offered his son as a burnt offering. And there was great indignation against Israel, and they departed from him and returned to their own land. Now, this last part right here, when you read it sounds a bit tricky, right? In the sense that there was great indignation against Israel, as though this thing that was done by this Moabite king here led to some wrath against Israel, right? However, when you read this in the Hebrew, and some of these other translations as well, the first one that I looked at here was the NLT, and it says, "And there was great anger against Israel, and the Israelites withdrew and returned to their own land." Though if you look at the footnote, right, it says here, "Or so Israel's anger was great." The meaning of the Hebrew is uncertain. Now, when you actually look into the Hebrew itself for this verse, where are we here? Right, so there was great, got a wall, indignation against Israel. So when you look at this word against, in the Hebrew we have here isle, and isle can mean different things, right, in different contexts, right? It can mean upon or on, or so on and so forth. But one of the definitions here is also by. Okay, so if you plug this in into that sentence, you can have here, as we're reading, which I think makes the most sense for this verse, that there was great indignation by Israel and not necessarily against Israel here. And they departed from him and returned to their own land. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the book of 2 Kings, the 3rd chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. And until next time, Shalom.